Hello and welcome to the Penguin Prof channel. Today I want to talk about how to take great notes that actually help you to learn. So I'm going to talk about why you should take notes, the science, form, writing versus typing, paper versus digital, and yes, there is something magical in between. And then your process options, 5 different common note-taking methods, the write over slides method, outlines, concept maps, the flow method, and the Cornell method. Please share in the comments, what are your preferences? What are you using? And did this video inspire you to try something new? So note-taking is an important part of the learning process for most students and for most disciplines. Basically, you're processing information, preparing to work with it later. Students who make their own notes consistently outperform students who are given notes by peers or even TAs and instructors. So it's the making and not the having of the notes that matter. This is because learning involves forming new connections between neurons. Your brain actually changes when you learn. So before learning, you may have 2 neurons with very limited interaction, and then after learning, you form new axonal branches, and you can increase the amount of connectivity between neurons. So yes, it does change your brain, but it doesn't happen overnight. So what do you think science says is the most effective study technique? And the answer is retrieval practice and recall. Lots of studies have demonstrated this, that it is about accessing and using information over and over and over again. That's how you form those connections between neurons. You have to retrieve again and again to make those connections solid so they last over time. These, which are very popular, give you a false sense of security, right? You think you're learning stuff, but really you're just reciting it. This is probably because of something called the Dunning-Kruger effect. No joke. Plot confidence versus knowledge. And you get this kind of relationship. So in the beginning, we really think we know everything. And then you realize you don't know much and you keep going. And eventually you will start to gain true knowledge. Okay, let's talk about form. Research shows that writing really is better. When we type, we try to transcribe everything, and you can actually zone out. In terms of paper versus digital, for cost and those who like the feeling of pen on paper, paper notebooks are obviously the best, but for everything else, digital notebooks really do win. But is there something in between? And the answer is kinda, yeah. I'm going to recommend you check out Rocketbook. This video is not sponsored, but Rocketbook is like a middle ground. So it's a reusable notebook system. They also have great flashcards. You write on them and then you scan them, and then you can send the notes to lots of different cloud-based services, and then they are searchable and you can share them and collaborate with others. I think Rocketbook is really incredible. Okay, let's talk about your options for note-taking. The write over slides technique. This limits the amount of writing you have to do, which is both good and bad. It also requires that your instructor provide you with notes, and you will then have to print them out and write on them, or you'll need an app so that you can annotate them on a tablet. The annotation part, right, is really, really key. So for disciplines where there's lots of images, this can be really effective. I think everybody knows how to outline. It's best for students who like structure and think linearly, and it's also best for disciplines that are linear, like a lot of science classes. When you're typing, it's very easy to insert new content, but please pay attention when you're picking an app. Make sure that you can insert new blank space. Not all apps will give you the option to do that, and that's going to be really important. Concept maps are great for topics that are not linear. They're great for brainstorming, and they're great to do by hand. If you're going to type, you're going to need a special app for that. I do find that this is hard to do in class. I much prefer concept maps as a collaborative effort, as a study technique after class, because you're really focusing on the relationship between things, and that takes some time. All right, let's talk about the flow method developed by Scott Young. He refers to this as holistic learning, and there are 3 principles. The first is simplify. Describe the information in your own words. Could you describe this to a 12-year-old, for example? Next, visualize. So use diagrams and images to represent new ideas. And 3 is make connections. Connect things forwards and backwards and connect things that are new to things that you already know. I think that this is an amazing strategy, but it requires you to be incredibly focused while you're in class. So if you can do that, definitely give this a shot. Finally, the Cornell method. This was developed by Dr. Walter Pock, who was at Cornell. He wrote How to Study in College, which is now in its 11th edition. The idea is that you divide your page into 3 sections. So you've got your in-class notes. This is like typical notes, right? Outlines, diagrams, and so forth. That's what you write during class. Then on the left, you have the cues column. That's where you write prompts and questions. And those you write after the class is over. And then at the bottom, you have a summary area for your main ideas. So you can buy a Cornell notebook. You can also just Google Cornell Notes digital template and you can print these or save them as a PDF. And most note-taking apps have a Cornell Notes option. I just made a Cornell template in my Rocketbook notebook. And what I love about this method is that it really sets you up for that retrieval practice because you can use the cues column for your retrieval practice. You're already setting up to do that. So if you haven't tried this method, I really recommend it. Some final suggestions. Don't rewrite your notes over and over again. Don't try to make them perfect. That's not actually helping you to learn. Remember, the best is the enemy of good. Learning how to take notes and study effectively, it's a journey, right? Like everything else. So try different things and see what works best for you. Your choice will change over time and will vary with discipline. And let us know in the comments what you're going to try next. As always, I hope that was helpful. For more videos like this, check out my College Success playlist, and I'll see you in the next video. Good luck.